morning, Que Onda Magazine. We're honored to actually have an exclusive interview with the police chief of Houston, the fourth largest city in the nation, Mr. Troy Fender.
Hey, I'm honored. Thank you so much. A lot of times people think it's a big deal in coming in to meet me, but I'm always excited when the community cares enough about me and the agency to come in and speak to me. So I'm honored to be a guest today.
Thank you. Yeah. With these past 5 months, running the largest police department in the fourth largest city in the nation, how has it been?
It's been extremely busy, yet I want to pause and let people know I'm so excited. I'm so honored. I've been a Houstonian. I am a Houstonian. Been here for most of my life with the exception of a few years in college. Been a police officer for 31 years, so it's a huge honor. But that honor comes with a lot of hard work. Just as in any other major city right now, the violent crime numbers are up. And people want to ask you all the time, what's the reason? What's the reasoning for it? There's a lot of reasons. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're still in it. I think 15, 20 years, 30 years from now, people will still be writing about it. But right now we're in it, and I think the biggest thing that all of us have to focus on is bringing the criminal justice system together. Nobody controlled a natural storm that came in named Harvey. It wrecked our criminal justice system. So we're backed up now. When you have over 150,000 cases that have to get to court, 1,500 murder cases and almost 500 capital murder cases, and some of these individuals are running around on the streets, we really have to pull together with our citizens, and the criminal justice system really has to become a true system again. And I'm not going to point fingers. I think everybody needs to be responsible, starting with me as the police chief, but our judges, the prosecutors, everybody, every arm and finger need to work together to get out of this hole, and it's tough.
Well, as recently as you stated, one of the most biggest challenge has been the increase in crime in our neighborhoods. But what are some of the challenges you've noticed with the police officers, the foot soldiers down there?
Well, you just want to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind. Okay, officers that have been here a little while, like myself, you know that waves come and they go. There's sometimes good positive rapport with police, but things happen, and sometimes that little narrative turns a little negative. But the truth is that we live in the greatest city in America, and the majority of citizens support us, and I have to let the officers know through it all. Now, they are, and I hear and I talk to my officers a lot, they are upset about criminals, violent criminals specifically, when we arrest them and they're released out on low bond and all, and that's an issue, and I'm not going to hide behind it. It's something that we have to address, and it's not only the officers that's frustrated, it's our citizens. I mean, when an individual commit violent crime after violent crime and they're not seeing them getting into court for a trial, that's a problem. That's a problem everywhere. So we really got to double down on that and work together.
Absolutely. Working with all the other institutions in the criminal justice system. But specifically, what is your specific goal in terms of decreasing the crime rate in our city?
Well, some of the statistics that I gave you and the cases that I gave you, you really have to double down on the locations that's causing you the most crime, and also those individuals. And sometimes it's gang related, and we have to really double down on that and make sure with the limited resources we have and in the staffing that we're identifying those individuals who are most violent and those locations who are driving most of the crime, and make sure we put police officers out there using technology to our advantage, and you know, just working hard to get those numbers down.
Thank you. There's been, I think, a spike or recent incidents about, road rage. For example, the young man that was killed after the Astros game, unfortunately. What can you advise the general public in terms of how to deal with road rage, or how can we minimize that?
Look, first thing I want to tell the general public, you know what? There are people out here for whatever reason, and it's sad in society. how people are just using guns to settle differences. I mean, what are they so upset about? I don't know, okay? But don't be a part of the problem. And what I'm talking about, if somebody cuts you off or somebody blows at you or whatnot, let that go. When you can just get away from it, just get away from it. But I'm also want to let people know also that there are individuals out there, they did everything right. And some knucklehead still shoots in their car and kills somebody. So I'm not putting a light on trying to, make somebody and say that, they did something wrong to become a victim of what I'm saying. That's not the case, but there are those instances where somebody cuts you off and then you tailgate and you blowing your horn at them and you become the aggressive driver. That's just not a good thing. Just back off. Now, what we're doing specifically in HPD, and it's not just HPD, it's other agencies, we set up task force around our city. Undercover officers in unmarked vehicles and also marked vehicles. But there's so much going on right now, it's hard to put an officer right on the spot because traditionally things happen in specific areas in the city, and I talked about those hot spots, and we still have some. But with road rage, it's popping up over everywhere, and that's the challenge. So it's an educational system that we need to put out there with our citizens, but also we all have to work together as law enforcement. Our constables, Metro, HPD, Harris County. Let me say thanks to DPS. They have been helping out tremendously with a lot of initiatives in our city, and I thank them for it.
Thank you. And you touched on a very critical point. With the recent passage of the gun law on September the 1st, what are your thoughts and feelings, and how should our public respond to that?
Look, if you got to get a driving license, okay, to drive a car, why don't you have something, a permit or something like it was to carry a gun? And the biggest problem with what people need to understand, okay, I'm not a political guy, and I try to stay away from the politics. I'm the police chief, and I'll continue to be. But when something affects public safety, then I speak up. Do you realize I talked about the backlog of the court processes, okay? So you got very violent individuals out here who have committed crimes that are felonies, time after time again, sometimes 4 or 5 over the past 2 to 3 years. They're out on our streets, okay? And if they had been through court and had their process, now they're convicted felon and they can't legally carry a weapon. But because of the backlog, you got those individuals out here right now that can legally pack a weapon. That's a problem.
Absolutely.
That's a huge problem. So when we do make laws and act new laws, we need to do it really with a lot of consideration and all lawmakers around our nation, okay? And I'm going to say this, they really need to, there's an organization that I'm a part of, Major City Chiefs. They really need, it's 79 of the largest police departments in the nation. They need to listen to us because it's us that's really fighting the crime and working with our citizens. So before you go out and you adjust laws, gun laws and at least take in consideration what we're saying because it's pretty darn objective, okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Now, the law has passed already, and coupled with the high level of stress, due to the pandemic, also mental health issues with some of our citizens, a combination of all of that. Let's just say I'm an average homeowner, I'm elderly, I'm at home, I don't have a weapon. What advice can you give the average citizen who does not have a weapon, and now there's proliferation of guns out there?
Yes.
What do I do to protect myself?
I just really, and you hit it like most of our citizens are, especially our great elderly citizens who have paid the price, working most of their lives and now in the retirement age. Just as young people, that's who I'm really concerned about more than anybody, because society, we have to protect them, but they need to protect themselves. And what I recommend, keep your doors and your windows locked. I also recommend some type of camera system, surveillance system outside of your house, because if something happens, you know, at least we have that footage. But
Well, Chief, I'm on
we
a
want to
fixed
prevent
income.
it. We want to prevent it. We want
Yes,
to
sir.
prevent it. But I'm just saying, if something does happen, we have that footage. But let me get back to old-fashioned neighborhoods
There
in
you
our
go.
city, okay? That's what we forget about, and that's what we need to go back to, knowing your neighbor and neighbors looking after one another, and also your relatives. Make sure if you have somebody that's elderly and retired, make sure that you're going over, spending time with them, making sure that they're safe. Also, we can always use the police department to come out and do safety assessments, okay?
Yes, sir.
They can look at a home, and this is through our DRT programs, differential response teams, our community service officers. All of them have that training where they can go out and say, well, hey, Miss Jones or Miss Garcia, this is what you need to do. And because a lot of times it's finances. Everybody is challenged financially, but there are some very inexpensive things, cutting the bushes down.
Oh.
Making sure you got lights in the right areas, okay? Making sure you can have a camera system up, an inexpensive camera system, but the main thing, neighbors looking after neighbors. That's the main thing, and that's what we need to get stronger in.
I'm a lifelong educator, but I noticed you also graduated from Sam Houston and
Yes.
U of H. What message do you have to young folks in terms of education?
I can speak for myself right now. Education was my door out, and really, and when I say door out, I don't mean anything negative. I love my community. My mom just passed away a few months ago, but my dad still lives in the neighborhood, and I frequent the neighborhood. But education, the University of Sam Houston, and then the University of Houston Clear Lake, where I received my master's, it gave me an opportunity to do more. Just as coming in, you had to have some education to become a police officer, first of all. But to promote to assistant chief, you had to at least have a master's degree. And I got that degree, so I would tell young men and young women everywhere, education is a way to me to better yourself. But more importantly, I don't ever want people to say, or I miss out on the opportunity because I don't have the education. Don't make a ceiling for yourself because you don't go and get an education. It's out there, and there's ways, there's grants, and especially if you are in a family where resources are not there, check the grants and scholarships, and you can get into college and just work a little bit, and it really pays off.
Absolutely.
And something else that people don't just look at it from a financial base. If you want to be in leadership somewhere, that education just broadens your experience, okay,
Right.
and opens your mind to understanding other people's life experiences and their perceptions. You know, so I really support it and hope that more of our kids, young men and young women, are really trying to, pursue a higher education.
Absolutely, thank you. One more question, Chief. As you mentioned earlier, that the census has, with the last 2020 census, the Latino population has really grown in the Houston area. What percentage of your police force is Latino?
Well, our classified, we're at 30%. The 2020 census holds the Latino population at 45%. So we're always wanting and striving for our department to be reflective of the general population. But at the same time, I always preference something. Diversity is good, and I truly believe in true diversity where people have input and they have the right and the authority and the power to be a part of the decision-making process.
Yes.
Because just numbers are just numbers, okay? But when you have a right and the authority to be a part of the decision-making process, that's true diversity. But I also want to speak to the heart of people. I get this when I'm going around Houston and say, well, Chief, why are not more Latino officers? Why not more African-American officers? We are recruiting, and we're doing things to increase that recruiting. But I don't want to forget about our other officers who have served us for many years in our areas, black and brown areas, for many years. I don't want to forget, I think the best thing that we need to be doing is recruiting good people with good hearts and making sure that they're serving our community. But we are open and recruiting, and I want you guys to help us in our recruiting as well. You know, it's just not the responsibility of the police department, it's the entire community. I want us to be able to share with the print, the regular news, radio and whatnot, what a great career this is, and help us recruit. So I'm really excited about that. One thing I want to talk about is, as well that I think is important. When I took over, Chief Acevedo left. We lost Chief Lopez, HISD chief now. Yeah. We lost them kind of around the same time, and that left me with 0 Latino assistant chiefs. And I appointed 2, Patty Cantu and Chief Garcia. And I'm really proud about that. Those are really good people that know community, know Houston, and know the department are well respected in and out, because you need that representation. This population is very important to me, Latino population. I just want to thank them for their contributions. And that's something that people don't say. If it wasn't for the Latino population, not only in Houston, but our nation, where would we be? Okay? And it's not just about labor.
That's right.
A lot of prominent people, but a lot of very proud people that work hard, and they need to be not a part from our community,
right?
A part of our community, and I'm proud about that. And we need to continue to work together to make sure that we're building strong relations, regardless of your race or your economic status. Everybody is important to me. Every community is important to me. But I just thank y'all for coming and sharing some things today.
We appreciate your comments, your passion and your heart for the community and for Houston and in particular our community. We will continue to, as you stated, not only you, we're working as partners. But one final question is, do you have any few words to tell our Que Onda Magazine folks in Espanol?
Absolutely. Que Onda, I'm so happy to be here today. Thank y'all for what y'all do for our community. But remember one thing, I cannot do this alone. I need the help. Y'all have the eyes and the ears for so many people, not just Latino people, okay? This is a well-respected organization, and I need your help in fighting crime, and also need the help to recruit. So this is the first. Next time I'm coming to your location, but we got to work together, and we got to keep the communication going. So just understand, this is your police department, okay? I'm your police chief, not the police chief, and we're here to work together to make our city safe. Thank you.
Thank you.